talking with casting director Katie Taylor. She specializes in the hard-to-find roles. For more than 2 decades, Katie has provided commercial directors and advertising photographers with unique faces and talents of every color, shape, and size. Katie truly believes there is a place for every face on the screen. Following a career as a successful stunt woman in film and TV, in '98, Taylor switched gears and began working in street casting for LA's top commercial and film casting directors. Realizing this was her true calling, Katie founded Taylor Casting in 2000. Today, she holds thousands of credits to her name, having cast for Google, Mercedes, Benefit Cosmetics, Target, Visa, Uber, Snapchat, Verizon, Bank of America, Nike, just to name a few. Seriously, check out her website. You just keep scrolling. Thank you so much for joining us, Katie.
You're welcome.
So we wanted to just jump right in. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey to your current career and how you established your own office?
Okay, so I have to admit, I didn't really set out to become a casting director.
Mhm.
It's kind of a path that I followed, kind of out of necessity at the time, and just blossomed into something that I never really imagined from the beginning. I started out as a preschool teacher, actually. That's what I went to school to be. At first, I started out in anthropology. I was an anthropology major for a year, and then after learning so much about like all these amazing anthropologists that did all these field studies that got malaria and their children died and things like that, I was kind of like, well, maybe not.
Maybe a lighter profession.
Yeah, like let's explore some other options. Because that was what appealed to me. I was like, I want to go and study these beautiful, amazing cultures all over the world. Like humans are so multifaceted and interesting. And, I had a real interest in like just humans. Like I just
Mhm.
found, human choices amazing and beautiful, all on their own, all over the world. And so then I switched to psychology for a little while, and that was just like so heavy and so mathematical and science driven and really deep. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to teach preschool. And I went into early childhood education because I also really loved working with children. I'd been like a nanny my whole, 20s and babysat. And I have, a family of 4 and cousins. And I was like, kids, easy, got that. And I taught for a few years. And as you imagine, teachers always, it's a little isolating, only dealing with children all day, and you don't get very much intellectual adult interaction. And so I started kind of picking up some of my old hobbies that I had when I was a kid. And one of them was gymnastics. And like as a gymnast, you hit 14 and your career is over if you don't make it to the Olympics. And so as an adult, you either go into owning a gym and coaching, or you go into the stunt industry. And so when I entered into the adult gymnastics class scene, everyone was in the stunt industry. And I was kind of like, this is cool. Wow. Like, I want to come audition for Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And
that was your first introduction to the entertainment industry? Wow.
No, that was not my first introduction to the industry. I grew up in the industry. Both my parents were directors.
Okay.
It was never a career path choice for me, really. Like I did acting as a kid in their videos. And like, when I was 12, I was like, I want to model. But I never, like, it was never like a thing.
The goal. Yeah.
Like, I thought I'd be a teacher. I thought I would be an anthropologist. I thought I would, I never had aspirations in the industry. But once like the stunt industry kind of world came into play, I was kind of like, this is cool because these people are like getting paid to like, jump out of the way of an explosion. And I was like, I can do that, and circus stuff. Like, I knew acrobatics and all these circus movies, they would hire all these gymnasts and acrobats. And I was like, this is a thing? Like, I knew this was a thing, but I didn't even like, I was thinking like Fall Guys, what you kind of think of. You don't think of like Batman, you know what I mean? And so I went into the stunt business. I started like, I was like preschool, shmee school. Like, this is what I want to do. This is awesome. And so I went and trained in precision stunt driving and high falls and circus arts and like all sorts of stuff. And eventually I got hurt, you know,
Oh,
not at work, but like, training. I was like, I'm going to jump off this thing. And, they would do stupid stuff as in the stunt circles. And of course
for sure.
you
For
get sucked
sure.
into that. And I rolled an ankle on a trampoline, and then I rolled another one months later trying to like protect it. And I was like hobbled
Oh,
for like a year. And so during that time, I like wasn't able to make a living, and I ended up running into a casting assistant that I used to audition for and audition for commercials for stunts. I would go out for Nike and I would go out for Skechers and whatever. And he was like, "Oh my God, no wonder we haven't seen you," as I'm like on crutches. And he's like, we're doing this like sports job where we need like real BMXers and we need real cowboys and we need real this. And I know you know all those guys, from the stunt business. I'm like,
exactly.
yes, I do. And they're like, would you want to come like do some research for us in our office? And I was like, yes, I can sit on my butt so well for you on the phone. And I took a job doing like real people research in a casting office. And I like killed that job. And they were like, do you want a job? And I was like, yes, I totally do. And from there it was like, now we need real nurses for Johnson and Johnson, and now we need real mother and daughters for Target, and we need real this. It was like a real people office.
Yeah.
And I have grown up in LA, and I'm so connected to my community and friends. It was really natural and easy for me to like just jump in there. I had to make a choice, like, do I get better and leave casting, or do I stay in casting? And I was like, I'm going to stay in casting. Like, this is a steady paycheck. I know what to do. And I'm getting people I know jobs instead of fighting to get the jobs. You know what I mean? And so I stayed, and I stayed at that company for 2 years until I left and started up my own. And that was really hard because then you have to like do spec commercials and freebies for directors that are just building their reel, and you have to start music videos are like the beginning. You start doing music videos because you have low budgets and they don't have a lot of money to pay talent, and they're non-union, and the hours are long, and they're feeding them peanut butter jelly sandwiches and water. I mean, it's hard
Yes.
when in the beginning.
Everybody starts in free work, that's for sure.
Yeah, and then eventually some of the directors kind of took me with them, and they would refer me to their friends, and it like slowly builds momentum. And I came from a business where the generation was like, it was hip to be mean back in the 90s as like a director or an agent or whatever. Like, it was very fear based, like, I'm going to make them afraid of me and they're going to do a good job because they know that I can rip into them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But eventually, like, because of that, there was like a backlash of like, well, when the assistants all become the boss, they're going to make sure to never be like that. And
Exactly.
so there was a shift from that generation of like meanies to like all their assistants are like, I'm going to be nice and encompassing and generous spirited, because I was like, yes, I'll do your free job. It's okay. I don't have any money. I'll do the best I can. And you do the best you can. And then the people are loyal to that.
100%.
You know what I mean? And so I did. I got brought with a lot of people, and they would pass me on. And it took a long time. It took like 3 years of doing those freebies and investing in people and giving it a chance, and like still working side jobs to live. I was still like scouting for other offices here and there. They'd be like, we need this weird, crazy unicycle juggler, that speaks French, like called Katie Taylor, like she can find anything, and I would still take those because I couldn't afford to say no. But like eventually after 3 years, I was like, okay, like this is enough. I have to start saying no. Eventually, that paid off. Like people were like, okay, even at that point for a while, casting directors were like, I'll just pay your rate. Like you just, you know what I mean? Because they like, some of it's really hard. And so we really had to kind of, at that point still like, no,
The commercial world, some of the things you all are asked to find, it blows my mind because it is like the most niche market, and you guys are expected to find not only the role but options for them to
I
meet personalities as well. Like it's amazing.
It's hard. So, especially with all this like reality trend that happened where everyone was trying to find real everything.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
it's hard. So, but it's been good. Like I have a lot of repeat clients now. I just have like my regular,
Mm-hmm.
people that just keep coming back and back and back. And occasionally we sprinkle like, oh, so and so referred me. And we get, little things here and there. But I have some really awesome, loyal producers.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. That is an amazing biography. What is one of your personality strengths that really is an asset to your casting career?
I think that being fearless is always helpful to me. Like, I'm not afraid to like. My career was built on literally approaching people in public, and a lot of the times people would think I was like some trying to sell them something, or you know what I mean, like
Yes.
that. Being able to be fearless like that and just be like, "Hey, I'm doing this. You'd be awesome," and and they kind of are sometimes it seems too good to be true what I'm doing. Like
Uh,
people don't approach people in public or on Instagram or whatever. Are you a scammer? I'm unafraid to kind of think outside the box and here's a way to vet me. Like I support that. Like, call on the agent, ask who I am, or
yeah.
whatever it takes for them that speaks their language and makes them feel comfortable. And so, I really pride myself on being able to kind of appeal to people's better nature and help them understand what we do and how this works. And I'm just looking out for a great opportunity for them or whatever.
Exactly.
Um, and then also, I think being able to understand the language of advertising is really a strength when people are really interested in like, oh well, what does aspirational really mean? Well, what do you mean by approachable? Like what is that?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like what sells? Like what look when they say like, oh, we want real people, like picking out like advertising friendly real people is
Mhm.
it's like a psychological game almost, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's you know pulling off of like my experience in anthropology and psychology and even early childhood education. Here I'm casting a commercial.
All of them were building blocks that
you
you didn't
know
even realize
exactly.
towards to the current.
Like it all is come into play that to help me kind of navigate in a way that caters to whoever is involved.
Yeah.
So I try to lean on that part of my background as much as I can.
Well, it seems to be working really, really well. We obviously want to dive into casting profiles and what are things that you look for with the real casting as well as more generic commercial casting.
Okay.
What are things that make your job easier that actors can have on their profiles, and what are things that get you excited to perhaps meet a new actor and bring them in for
Okay.
the first time?
Well, I mean, to be totally honest, it's another weird psychological game when it comes to getting selected from submissions. We look at when we put out a breakdown for 25 to 35-year-old men and women, all ethnicities, all shapes and sizes, everything, bring it on. Um, and we'll get like 4,500 submissions.
Mm.
And so we usually tend to filter those submissions. To be honest, we have pre-programmable filters on casting networks
Mhm.
where we can build a profile filter that says, we call it our A-list filter or our comedians filter or our models filter or our best kids agents filter. We can program and name them whatever we want and apply them to our submissions. So if we're looking for something that's really improv or comedy heavy, I can click on my improv comedy filter and only all the agents that are really, really tight on comedy and improv will be shown.
Right.
And as far as like doing that scroll, we're literally looking at, 150 thumbnails that are 1.5 by 2 inches.
Yeah, so
um,
small.
and I want to say that those people that end up styling themselves almost like an ad, where it's got like the bright pink background with the bright orange shirt with the bright blue sweater with the blue glasses. You know what I mean? Where it's like, it's so kind of splashy
Mhm.
and poppy, you know what I mean? That it really kind of draws the eye when because you're literally like this. I mean, that's like the chance
Totally going across
not
row
even
after
getting,
row.
yeah, you're not even getting like a full second. You're getting like an 18th of a second. And when someone's got a bright colored something with a contrast and a contrast, and it's like, it's like this picture, you know what I mean? It's like, it's just, it automatically makes you like, oh, yeah, yeah, that's totally Google. I mean, that looks like a Google ad to me. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
It
you
makes it come into focus.
yeah. So, for a long time, there was a very kind of like monochromatic look where everyone was wearing like a navy blue with like the dynamic background that made you look like you were kind of like in an alley or something, but you couldn't really tell what it was. It was
What was
so
happening in the photo? Yes.
yeah, like where were you? Is that like in the behind somewhere? So it's like that was because it was like kind of intriguing and stuff. This is like this is the game. You know what I mean? And it's like you gotta just play that. Play that. We don't open it. We don't open anyone's profile. What you never 4,500 submissions. You think I'm opening profiles? Like, no
Oh,
way. I'm
terrible.
not opening it. You know, if it's comedy driven, or if it's something that's really relevant, or if it's like this is like a film director or a TV director, and this is very dialogue heavy, you know, I'll look at people's TV resumes and look for networks and look for studios. Like I look for stuff that makes it easy. I'm not gonna like Google who Joe Smith is to see if he's legit, or go to your IMDb. I'm like, that's too many clicks. You know what I mean?
Too
I'm
much
looking
time.
for quick, and most good agents will just put a note that is under the picture. I don't have to expand anything. I just have to read it that says groundlings level 2 expert pro improv Olympics, whatever, you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
that's all. I'm like, click, done. You know, it's like you just look for who's going to make it easy,
Yeah.
you know. And if you are a specialty at something, like you are a triple black belt in jujitsu and should be considered for every single jujitsu job that's ever out there in the history of life, just put a permanent note on your profile that's there on every submission, every time, for every job, for any reason, that just says triple black triple black belt jujitsu.
Okay.
Because even when that's not relevant, even if it's just like a car job where we're looking for like cool things, maybe the director was like, oh, and you know, we want to keep an eye out for like gymnasts or people that are into parkour, or like just have like a funky, cool skill that might be interesting to
Mhm.
integrate. So like you might not even know when something's relevant. So
Exactly.
it's kind of just kind of good to throw it out there, as long as it's not something that's like branded in any way that's going to skew anyone in a negative direction. You know, like I wouldn't say that you're like a former pro baseball player for a specific team,
Mm.
you know, because there could be some director that's like a huge fan of their biggest competitor that's just going to be like, yeah, I hate that guy.
Exactly.
You
You
know,
never want to do anything that will give them a
just
reason to
put,
say no.
just put ex pro baseball player at least.
That's all they need to know. That's all they need to know. Um, because like that makes total sense with like the splashy and like the lots of colors. And I love how you put that it should honestly feel like the photo was pulled from an ad. For some of these specialized things like real horseback riders or swimmers or yogis, skill photos and skill clips.
Yeah,
What are your feelings on those?
just kind of just make it easy. It bashes you over the head. The one big mistake that people make, and it's very, very, very common, is you have to have a photo of you doing the skill where we can see your face. Like we have to be able to see you.
Okay.
Like there's so many pictures of like people swimming where like they're just swimming. Like, but I can't
You
see
have to
it.
identify them that way.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't really have to be proving it in swimming. Like, if you're just in your cap with your goggles up, standing at the line,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That's good enough. Like, we trust you. Like, if you went out of your way to make that shot, we believe you're really a swimmer. Like, we don't need to see you actually swimming if we can't see you. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, no. I think sometimes actors they want to be doing so much that they can't pull back from the forest to see the trees and realize
You have to see what we're selling here.
exactly
You
because the
know?
face is still involved. Still involved. No,
Not like, you know, even if it ends up being that we don't see your face, it doesn't matter because people have to buy you
mhm,
first.
yes, and you want to from photo and your submission to coming into the room, you want that recognition and
You
the
want to
synergy through it.
see, like, how old someone is and, like, what they look like, and you know what I mean? You don't want it to be, like, a total shock. We picked this person that was underwater with the most amazing stroke, and they're not even, like, the right ethnicity. You're like,
That would be a problem.
sorry. Well, I thought maybe I could play African American. You're like, no.
Like, no, that's not how this works.
Yeah.
No, you are a female-owned business, and we love that here because we are as well. Someone who hasn't been to your office yet, can you walk us through a session? Like, what is they come in, they sign in. What is it like in your room?
It depends what it's for. I do half print and half commercials. Actually, I'd say probably do more print, but most of my print jobs have been kind of switching over to video casting because they like to get a sense of someone's personality instead of just judging those 4 photographs that they get of a person. Um, so if it's a print casting, it's so fast. Like we're like a machine. Like I built a lot of my business on print,
Mhm.
and so like I've worked that machine really tight. Anyone that's come in for me knows that they're waiting for less than 15 minutes. They get a name tag. You sign in, you get a name tag that has your name, your slate number, and your height. Usually, if you're a kid, it'll also have your age. You go in the room. I have one of a couple of different photographers that literally just take smile to the side, full body, hands in your hip, and then some lifestyles personality shots. And then you're out the door. Like
Right.
it's like 3 minutes. It's so fast. And you're just being judged by those 4 pictures. And that's it. Those go on my website, get sent to the client. They look at you and they scroll, you get a whole line. That's the good thing. You're not
You do have your whole own line.
thumbnail like I've picked you from. You get 4, you get a whole row. you know and then if it's a video casting, I put all of my stuff on casting networks, on LA Casting specifically because I'm in LA. But they have a program called Fast Capture that's attached, that we just log in from your appointment that we gave you through the ticket, and then we attach your casting profile to your audition. So they see all your headshots and your resume, and everything you have loaded to casting networks gets attached to your audition. And then we send that link at the end of the day off to the client, and they look at it, and they get pages of thumbnails, but the thumbnails are actually pretty big. They're not thumbnails; they're like handprints.
Okay, like 2x2 or 3x3.
Yeah, they're bigger. They're bigger, and then when you click on it, it opens up to your audition and your pictures and your profile and your resume, and it has like does a whole 1 page on you, a little pitch sheet.
Now, while we're still talking about in the room for commercials, a lot of actors like to give their personality away, and not just in the slate, but also like adding a button or, adding a
Right.
little extra zhuzh and glitter at the end. Have you seen that really work? Are you for that? Are you against it?
It kind of depends. The thing that happens where it's not an asset is that everyone picks the obvious joke and does
Mhm.
it, and then it's not unique. It's just like, oh, you thought of that too, huh? Oh, you're so smart.
As you all are just sitting there going, I've heard that 22
You know what I
times.
mean? So it's like you do have to be mindful about what you are doing and make sure that it is a little unique. And if you do take the chance of it being something obvious, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
might be kind of judged on that and not the best way. And maybe they won't care and they think that you did it better than everybody else did. You don't, it's just a risk. It's a risk.
Exactly.
The obvious joke is the risk.
Be very confident you're going to land it if you do it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's a way to win it by sticking to the script
Mm.
and doing other choices with facial expression, with flavor, with interpretation. You know what I mean? Like that's something I've seen win, where like I did a job where there was absolutely no dialogue at all. It was all action. It was like a girl that came into her yard with her magazine to her hammock, and she looked around like, this is the perfect day to read a magazine in my hammock. And she sits down in the hammock and settles in and starts to read. And then like a bug hits her book, and she's like, It's like it was just telling the story as a solo, and then she gets a mosquito, and then a wasp. It was like for a lawn spray or some kind of
Mm.
bug care something or other. But it was all completely her choices. It was like these three things have to happen. A bug has to hit your thing. You have to swat a mosquito, and you have to, a hornet has to come by that freaks you out or whatever. Oh, you have a spider. That's what it was. You have a spider crawling up you,
Ooh.
right? And so you get to pick how all of that goes down, all on your own, but as long as it's in that order, but all the choices are yours. Like those are the times that you can win it so hard because you're given that free time to play, and you're given that free time to like make completely unobvious choices because been given more permission. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like you just have levels to hit, but you can get there however you want.
Yeah. Right now, we're obviously navigating some very uncertain times. We don't know when the industry is going to resume and what our career and work that we love is going to necessarily look like. Um, but in hopes that even with the distancing, we're going to start possibly doing self tapes going into commercial work so that we're kind of doing the pre-reads almost on our own.
Right.
But with commercials, it's so much different than doing theatrical self tapes. Is there any
Right.
advice you have for capturing that essence of improv or personality when you're not in the room with a session runner, when they can't say, hey, this director likes a lot of dialogue or likes a lot of energy, or any advice there to
I
how to make
think
it the most universal but successful?
I think the one thing that consistently seems to be a an asset is people that really tend to be really truly authentic and not like on. You know what I mean? I think a
Yeah.
lot of times a lot of people feel like they need to be on brand from like the second they open their mouth, and they're like that person. Hi, I'm Katie Taylor. Like they're on immediately.
Yes.
Just kind of being really conversational and approachable, and really just someone that you could see yourself sitting at the lunch table with, just chatting about the fact that they are really into collecting vintage cars, and they, you know what I mean, like they become a really relatable person. And that's something that is also a draw to a brand, is that someone that's really relatable. So if you're just authentically on brand,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, if you're just yourself, you naturally will be. If you are called in, you're on brand anyway.
Exactly. Now, you are known for being a body positive casting director. Why was that important to you?
Am I known for that? That
I
was
mean,
so.
I was like looking through some of your materials, and I feel like you look more universally at,
Well,
not saying that this is the person that is the face of this brand,
sure.
but like it could be these three as well.
It's true. I am definitely super non-discriminatory and
Hmm.
consider everyone for everything. When they ask for me to really consider everyone for everything, I'm like, well, then that includes this.
Yeah.
I'll bring in special needs talent, and I'll bring in, every kind of different flavor you can possibly imagine that's out there of human being, because that's an accurate representation of our population.
Yeah.
And sometimes, they do go for types that might be more attention getting for their brand, which I can respect, because sometimes it's not always positive attention. Like there are times, there's been times in history where people have put mixed race couples and they've gotten really, a lot of flack for that. But I really honestly, I do support and love working for brands that do really accurately represent reality, and the fact that we are such a diverse culture of people, and that's super important to give that a voice instead of kind of sterilizing it so much. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But it is the brand's choice ultimately. I can't influence it one way or the other. I'm the crayon box. You know what I mean? Like I get to show them, like, here's the colors that are available for your painting today. Like I know you asked for this palette, but like I sprinkled some extras in there just in case. You know what I mean?
So
Kind of
beautifully put. You are the crayon.
you know what I mean? Like, here's what I have. And
Yeah.
sometimes they're like, oh, I didn't think of that. Like, yeah, I'm gonna color a part of it that. That's a good idea. And
Exactly.
sometimes they don't. But ultimately it's really their choice, and I can't really push anything. It's not my painting.
Right.
It's not my painting.
But you're doing so much just showing them other options that
Yeah.
are opening their eyes, and folks like yourself are starting the curve that we're seeing in the breakdowns where
Sure.
it is more and more diversity, more and
Yeah.
more special needs, and
And I have
more.
been doing that a lot. I've been doing more and more like non-binary roles have been coming into play a lot, which I'm like, finally, yes. Like here's a whole part of our culture we're not representing
Exactly.
in advertising. So it hasn't always been that way. So it has evolved and it's still evolving.
Hmm.
I hope that it will eventually be accurate. Let's just say
Yes,
that.
a true representation. When you turn on the ads, it's going to become
Yeah.
more and more like TV is becoming,
Right.
where
But I have to say there is a trend right now. Like right now it's all about the ambiguous talent and that's really about saving money flatly. It's because they can put it in Spain and they can put it in South America and they can put it in the United States. And they, and everyone was like, "Yes, they're Spanish, of course." Yes, they're Brazilian. I mean, of course. You know
wow,
what I
I never thought about it like that.
mean? It's a money saving maneuver.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that is eye opening. But at least they are getting these roles and they're booking, and
Yeah.
that is
It,
huge. And in America, we are seeing more of it, which is
yes.
so important. Um, you clearly love actors. You clearly love your job. What is one of your favorite parts of it,
Gosh, still to this day, honestly, like the kind of stuff that like makes me all like is when someone either has had this dream for so long and have been fighting so hard and have kind of like been through so much to get there to like finally give them something like that that they deserve and see how that affects their life
though?
is really powerful experience. Just
Wow.
to kind of be a part of it, just to watch the journey unfold and like actually experience that human having that experience is
Yeah.
so powerful. It's really amazing.
Wow.
And that happened recently where it really, really affected me. Where I cast a lot for Benefit Cosmetics, who I love, and they're so diverse and encompassing. And they hire girls with braces, and they hire girls with colored hair, and they're really like they hired. I mean, ugh, I just love them. They're amazing, and we. I got this self submit randomly from this beautiful Asian girl with colored hair. She had pink hair at the time, I think. And I brought her in and she had bleached her eyebrows and they'd all fallen out. And so it was for a brow job and she couldn't, it was, like it just wasn't the right fit. And I brought her in another time and her hair was silver. We were looking for silver haired girls. And I was like, keep this silver hair. Like they're doing this silver thing a lot, like every time I cast for them, they're asking for silver because they have a gray pencil and they have a gray, like that's one of their palettes. And we cast per shade of makeup, you know what I mean? And finally she came in where it was like the perfect fit and she booked it. And she has no agent and she's never booked a big cosmetic campaign. And out of like the 30 girls we picked, they picked her and maybe two other girls to be in these huge posters in Ulta. And she went in and was like, "Oh my God." you know? And she took all these pictures with her, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Like such a beautiful experience to watch. Like she had fought so hard for this. She showed up every time. She'd really tried.
Yeah.
And it like paid off. And then I remember back in the day, I booked this kid on a Nike SAG National and he made like some substantial money and
Serious money.
it sent him to school, like paid for like some community college for him. And like I used to get letters from his parents, you know what I mean? And there was also this amazing, beautiful African guy that used to send me a Christmas letter every year that was like, "You're my guardian angel, like you changed my life." Like though that just means so much to me to just know that like because I feel like my job is so frivolous and so meaningless and like I'm not a doctor. I'm not like curing disease. I'm not like contributing to like the good of humanity. Like I'm doing something so shallow. I'm like selling toothpaste and cheeseburgers. But like
But
to
you were
just
changing
know,
these actors' lives.
yeah, but to just know there's like a part of it it's kind of like this Robin Hood-esque thing where you know what I mean? Where I'm like, these people, they're giving away this giant lottery ticket. And if you just show up, all you have to do is get put on tape. Like I'm not, that's all. You just have to show
Not
up
creepy at all.
and, and to the set, just show up to the set and just do what they ask. They will send you money, I promise.
A good amount of it too. Actors often want to feel like they are being um, productive, and I say that with air quotes, and they want to feel like they're doing something. And
Right.
sometimes that is just sending postcards and just kind of yelling out into the void, and it doesn't move the needle.
Yeah.
What are some more productive ways that actors can stay in touch
Well,
with your office, or advice that you would have?
I'm going to be really honest. Okay. There are like 500,000 actors in this town. Like, I don't even know how many there are. There's so many.
That's a minute.
And every single time I get to the studio, I may be cast anytime from 2 times a week to all 5 days a week with 4 sessions a day. Like, it really depends on the volume, right? And every day I come into a stack of mail that I have. It's like, look, Joe thanks me for him coming in for these last 2 castings. Too bad I have no idea who Joe is, because he didn't put a card with his photo in it or any kind of recognizable material. He just put thank you, Joe Smith. Like, how many Joe Smiths are there? Do I have to go back and look? Like, I don't have time for that, right? So, like, if you want to do that, like, be mindful of what you're doing, because what you're really doing, honestly, like, that kind of stuff, from that kind of stuff to your Instagram, to whatever your marketing material are, you're honestly just like a billboard that we're passing. This is just advertising, right? And it's very psychological. It's like, how many times you see a face is how many times like that line in your brain is like solidified over and over and over again, right? So there is an element of like, you do want exposure, you do want them to see you, but you also don't want to be the negative, right? You don't want to be remembered. And when that memory comes to here, it's, you know what I mean? You want it to be like ding, 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 right? Because sometimes you don't even know why you remember that person, but you do get a this or this,
Positive
right?
reaction, yeah.
So, you know, if you do want to thank someone, that's great. Gratitude is lovely and amazing. I appreciate that a lot. But do it mindfully. Include your face and your agency, so we go, oh, of course, Joe Smith. I love him. And then you get the ding, 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 right? Um, I would also say I would focus more on social media and following casting directors and interacting on their page and appreciating their whatever. That's going to get you the, you know what I mean? Like the positive.
Yeah.
I wouldn't inundate them with anything. I would never email them directly. Like, please don't email them directly for anything. Unless it's an audition that you've self-submitted on and you need a time adjustment or whatever, you've opened the line of communications for a legitimate exchange. We get so much like automatic actor newsletters and pitches, and like, I ignore agent pitches. There are agents that I love and I work with all the time. They know full well I don't take pitches. I just don't. Like, I pick what I pick. I'm sorry. Unless it's like, hey, this guy's a legitimate skateboarder you have to see is real, I couldn't attach it. I'm like, oh, yes. But if it's like this print job that you're doing 25 to 35, all ethnicities, everything, I want to pitch, you're like, no. I'm just going to pick who I pick, okay? Like, I've had the conversation. I know what that translates to. I've seen their examples. Like, let me just quickly do my job, you know? So you have to be mindful about your interaction. I just would exclude emails from that. I would fill your Instagram with engaging, interesting content of like what you like to do, and like you're cool, you're into this and you're into that. Even if it's like you're into cooking, you're into collecting vintage Barbie dolls, you're into, you're a big hiker, like whatever it is. Sometimes they ask for more on you, and we turn to those. We're like, oh, look at this. He's got a family. Oh, look at this. This is him, this is him looking really natural in this circumstance. You know what I mean? Like, we do source content from what's out there about you. So you definitely should build some good content. We don't care about followers. We don't care about any of that stuff. It's about what can we use to market you? What kind of nice material do you have?
Yeah. I mean, I think we all have heard, be very careful what you share on social media, be mindful that brands are looking at it. But I had never really thought about that. That's additional source material for you guys to use.
Because what happens is, after you've gone in for a job, and they've picked you and they like you, they then have to sell you to the brand.
Mm.
And how they do that is they skew it to their message. And how they do that is they source material that you have that sells that flavor. You know what I mean? And
Wow.
you may only have a couple pictures on LA Casting. You go to your Instagram, you're like, oh my God, here's her running on the beach, laughing. Here's her eating an ice cream cone with a silly face. Here's her with her dog. It's like, here, she's a real person. She's natural. She's believable. She's this person that we're trying to sell. Like, here it is on brand,
There you go. It's all of these personality shots. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We like to end the What's My Frame podcast with asking everyone the same question. What is one thing that you wish you could have told your younger self?
How old are we talking younger here?
At any point, any before yesterday, like if you wish you had done something in February, like February seems so long ago.
That's a hard question. I guess I would just have to be reassuring and let myself know that to trust my gut and to be true to my own self, you know what I mean? And to continue to trust that inner voice that is always going to keep you in the direction that's going to make you happy, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, it guides where you shine. You know what I mean? And I think that's important. I still do.
That's excellently put. Right. Thank you so much for giving us your time and so much invaluable insight. It opened my eyes on a number of things, and I think it's really valuable. So thank you so much. All right. Thanks. Bye. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening, and to my guest today, Katie Taylor. If you enjoyed the show, please rate, review, and subscribe so you won't miss an episode. And tell a friend. Our goal is to encourage, inspire, and educate our creative community. You can also follow us on Instagram at What's My Frame for daily blogs, industry news, and advice. I'm Laura Linda Bradley. Thank you for joining me on What's My Frame.